conscious choices. The subconscious makes a choice, and then we consciously make the research. But all we know is that we can accurately predict whatever you're going to choose well before you consciously choose it. We know. We're sitting in the back room looking at the computer screen. As soon as a choice comes up, we look at the neural patterns in your brain. We know that's what he's going to choose. Meanwhile, you're in the lab thinking, do I want pizza or lasagna? We know you've already made the choice. We're sitting back in the lab room laughing at you while you spend 2 or 3 minutes deciding what you want. Krishna's saying that right here. This is not hocus pocus. Krishna is saying, under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by work born of your own nature, you will act all the same. And again, this is why I really don't, this is a very, very difficult topic to talk about. We don't have free will. In the sense that the choices we think we're making consciously are being made subconsciously, and we don't even know why. Krishna gives a hint here. He says, under illusion, and that's the key. The answer to this comes in the 3rd chapter. What's interesting about the Bhagavad Gita, if have studied the Bhagavad Gita, it's very interesting. Krishna, sometimes the structure of the Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna is all over the place, right? So I've just switched from the 2nd chapter to the 18th chapter. Now I'm going back to the 3rd chapter. But I'm going to go to the 3rd chapter and talk about, Krishna describes why this is so. It's chapter 3, text 27. Krishna says, the spirit soul, that's you and I, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities by the 3 modes of material nature. Let me say that again. Krishna is saying, the spark, the Atma, the soul within, we are bewildered by the influence of false ego, and we think we are the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. By nature, right? The Sanskrit Krishna is using is ahankar. Ahankar literally means, aham means I, kara means do. Ahankar, this false conditioning, I am in control. I'm doing this. I am choosing. Krishna says, bewildered by this I am doing conditioning, we think we are doing all kinds of activities. But Krishna is saying, you're not. It's carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. It is carried out by prakriti. It is carried out by prakriti. Again, it's really, a lot of people, the first time I gave this particular lecture, it was actually in a university in Boston. And there was a lot of, young kids, obviously, in their late teens, early 20s. We had a wonderful discussion. But no one in the room could accept that they were not in control. Those of you who will listen to this recording later on, I bet many of you have a hard time accepting that you were not in control. Now let's jump again, bouncing around the Bhagavad Gita as Krishna does. Let's go back to the very, very beginning of the 2nd chapter. Krishna says, if I can pull that up here quickly. Chapter 2, text 14. Krishna says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must... Happiness and distress are non-permanent, and they come like winter and summer seasons. Now, those of you who I'm here in Boston, and the weather has been crazy the past 2 weeks. We just had what we call up here a nor'easter. We had about a foot and a half of snow dumped on us. One day, it was 0 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. 0 degrees for a week, 50 degrees 2 days later, another 6 inches of snow, 20 degrees. This weekend is going to be 50 degrees. The reason why I'm saying this is no one has control over the weather. Krishna is comparing happiness and distress to that thing which we have no control over. We have no control over winter and summer. We have no control over the weather. Krishna uses that example to compare it to happiness and distress. We have no control over happiness and distress. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, it comes like winter and summer. It's going to happen whether you want it or not. Now this scares the living daylights out of all of us. Me too. And I'm sitting here giving the lecture, and I'm scared to death. It takes away control. Why? Because ahankara vimudhatma. Back to the 3rd chapter. Krishna says we are bewildered by ahankara, this belief that I do. Now we've had this conditioning, this ahankara, since time immemorial. We have no other experience of how to exist. We have no other experience. In fact, I'm going to go home after the lecture, and my wife's going to ask me, Maha Vishnu, would you like this or that to eat? And I'm going to sit there like an idiot and think I'm making a conscious choice. And it's reaffirmed because I'm thinking, oh no, I've made a choice. And my wife is giving me this instead of that. Every day, every minute of our experience, we are making choices and we see, right? Let's be practical here. Let's stop talking, in the air. Let's be practical. You get up and you can make a choice whether you're going to go left or right. We make choices all throughout the day, and the choices have consequences. We see that if we go right, this happens. If we go left, that happens. So there's a reason why we are stuck in this belief that we're in control, because everything we do in our environment, looks like we have control. That's the problem. Because we're stuck in one reality. That's the key. We are stuck in one reality. The only reality we have experience of is the material reality. In the material reality, where there is ahankar, it looks like we are in control. It's the only reality we know. And that's why when Krishna says, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja, first Krishna spends the entire Bhagavad Gita, says, do your duty, do your duty, do your duty. Even I do my duty because I set the right example in the world where they have to do their duty. Krishna talks about doing your duty, following your varna, your ashram, so on and so forth. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja, give up your duty. When Krishna, and this is very important, when Krishna is saying do your duty, he's talking about those of us who are conditioned, those of us who are under the influences of material nature, and we believe we are in control of every aspect of existence. We are bewildered by ahankar. For those of us who are bewildered and controlled by ahankar, this conditioning of I do, I'm in control, we must follow dharma every step of the way. Because we're in this reality of prakriti, material nature. But Krishna says, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Mamekam, surrender unto me. Give up dharma. But the only way you are allowed, so to speak, to give up dharma is if Sharanam Mama, if you surrender unto me. And this is not surrender like, surrender obviously has a connotation, especially in the United States. Here we have a whole, slave history. So you say surrender and people want to slap you across the face. When Krishna's talking about surrender, when I go home, I surrender to my wife. Love is surrender. When Krishna is saying surrender unto me, we cannot surrender to anyone we do not love. It's called employment, it's called a career, it's called slavery, it's called abuse, it's called exploitation. It's not called surrender. Love is required for there to be surrender. I go home, I surrender to my wife. When I'm with my daughter, I surrender to my daughter. Do I surrender to my boss? Oh, good God, no. When Krishna says you can give up dharma, the only way you can give up dharma is if you surrender unto me, is if you love me, if we have a loving relationship. When Krishna says, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. I'm going to wrap up now. Krishna says, only if you surrender unto me. What Krishna is talking about is surrender. Surrender means love. You cannot love someone or something if you do not know a bloody thing about it. We cannot love Krishna unless we know Krishna. So the first thing comes is knowledge, right? Krishna, in order for us to have this surrender, this love, we have to know Krishna. Krishna is nirguna. I'm going to wrap it all, I'm bringing it all together now, right? Prakriti, material nature, is guna. Krishna says, according to your guna, guna means qualities. According to your qualities, your material qualities, you're going to act. In fact, you're forced to act. Again, back to the 3rd chapter. I won't read it here, but if you go to the 3rd chapter, text 5, Krishna says everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities. Actually, I should read it because that's a very important verse too. Chapter 3, text 5. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he or she has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Krishna is saying, those of us who are in Prakriti are bound by guna, these material qualities. We must follow Dharma. We are bound by it, so we have to consider what is Dharma. Because we have this conditioning. I am in control. I'm in control. Okay, you want to be in control? You must choose Dharma. You must act according to Dharma if you believe you are in control. You have this conditioning. Beyond that, outside of that, there is the material realm and the spiritual realm. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhava, mata sarvam pravartati, iti madva bhajantamam buddha bhava samandvita, right? There is a spiritual world, material world, spiritual energy and material energy, material and spiritual realm. Krishna is saying Dharma is irrelevant in the spiritual realm. Right? When Krishna says Sarva Dharmam Parityaja, give up Dharma, he's talking about giving up Dharma, or Dharma has no issue, is not important, is irrelevant only when you exist in the spiritual realm. When you are spiritually purified. Spiritually purified means we are not bewildered by ahankar. We are not bewildered by this I am in control. That is the spiritual realm. The more we have divested ourselves of this ability or this idea of ahankar, I'm in control, guess what happens? Freedom. That's where freedom is. Freedom is not in the material realm. We are forced to act according to the qualities we have acquired by material nature. The example given in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives a very good example in the Bhagavad Gita. There is the body. The body is like a chariot. There are 5 horses. These are the 5 senses. The horses are controlled by the reins. The reins are compared to the mind. The reins of the horses, the reins of the senses are held by a charioteer. This charioteer is the intelligence. There is a passenger in this chariot. The passenger is the soul. Do we have a clear picture of what's happening here? We are passengers. The horses are trying to pull in a number of different directions. If we're lucky and we have a strong mind and intelligence, we can have some kind of control, so to speak. But as all this is happening, we, the soul, are not in control of what's going to happen next. The horses, the senses are prakriti, material nature. The reins, the mind, is prakriti, material nature. The intelligence is prakriti, material nature. It is only the soul that is para, prakriti, spiritual nature. The chariot is material nature. Only the soul is spiriting as passengers